Hey, it's good to be back with you guys again. It's been a while since I've recorded some videos, so for those of you that track our channel, forgive me. There's been a little bit of a delay, but hey, we're back. We're gonna record some videos for you. I've got some things that I'm really anxious to talk with you about. Some of them are pretty kind of near and dear to my heart relative to the industry and some of the things that I think about. I'm full of lots of opinions. But let me get started on a couple kind of transaction kinds of things first. And the first one I want to talk with you about today is called seller carryback. But first, introductions. My name is Mark Hulsey. I'm a commercial investment broker. I've been in the industry for a long time, been an investor, teacher, trainer, broker, you name it. I've worn lots of hats. We are in multiple states, but we're from Florida to Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois. So let's talk about seller carrybacks today. Don't know if you guys know what they are or not. We can use seller carrybacks, you guys, for both residential or commercial real estate. There's risk involved, and that's kind of the most important thing that I want to talk with you about today is the risk factor. And who does that risk factor apply to? It really applies to a seller. But let me explain what they are first, because there's a lot of people, I'll mention a seller carryback, and they're like, I don't know what that means. It's a loan. It's another note, okay? The seller is carrying back a loan is what they're doing. We can use it like a stopgap measure when we're putting a deal together. And what I mean by stopgap measure, let's use some simple numbers because I'm a simple guy. Let's say we've got a $100,000 property, which of course we'll never find in today's market, but we'll say it's $100,000. And we've got this gap in there, $10,000. That we're able to go out there and the bank says, you know what, I'll give you a 60% loan. And the buyer says, well, I can put down 30%. And so now I've got 60 plus 30 making 90, and I've got this 10% gap. And we go, how are we going to close that gap? What could we do? And one of the things that we can do is we can say, seller, are you willing to carry a note or a carryback? Will you carry back a loan that you're going to give to the buyer? That's what a seller carryback is. Us investors, we've used seller carrybacks for, well, forever. It's very common. It's just another type of seller financing. As you probably know about land contracts or contract for deeds, that's when we don't have a lender involved usually whatsoever, certainly not in the first position, lien position. And we have the seller who's essentially playing bank. Well, here on a seller carryback, the seller's playing bank again, but they're not in the first position. This is really important. So if you're a seller and someone's talking to you about doing a seller carryback, you need to understand the risk involved. Because who's in the first position? The primary lien holder. Who's the primary lien holder? Well, in most cases, it's going to be the bank. The only time that someone's going to trump the bank is going to be the government, and that's going to be in the case of property taxes. But I'm not going to go down that road today. Let's just stick with the number one lien holder is always going to be the lender. So why is there risk? How does that risk come into play? The way it comes into play is let's talk about what's the worst case. Default, right? Foreclosure. That's going to be our worst case in almost any real estate transaction. And so if everything goes belly up and the lender comes back and says, can't make your payments, can't make this investment work, can't make your home work, can't make whatever work, we're going to foreclose on you. They're in the first position. They can come back and they can either take the property back as collateral, right? If it's a collateralized asset. If it's a recourse loan like in commercial real estate, which I've done videos on this by the way, you guys, recourse versus non-recourse loans, they can take back the collateral and they can go after the buyer or the note holder and say, you now owe us money. The collateral is not enough. But what ends up happening is that seller who did that carryback can lose out completely because they're in a second lien position. The lender can essentially come in and we'll let the lawyers, do their work on this because I'm just a broker, can't get into the legal aspect of this, but there are legal means of going in to be able to essentially push aside the second note. The lender in the first position can what's called foreclose on the second note and almost really make it kind of null and void. So oftentimes what they end up doing is they may come along and say, we need to foreclose on this property, but what we're going to do is we're going to settle with the second lien holder. Sometimes there's a third lien holder, okay? We can get into multiple lien holders here too, but it's usually maybe second, at the very most, usually a third lien holder. So, it's really interesting, you guys, back in the day, and I've been at this for a really long time. Back in the day, there used to be a lot of fraud in our industry. There still is a lot of fraud. Okay, but I'm not going to talk about that right this very second. But there's a lot of fraud, even like on small deals, duplexes and triplexes and fourplexes, small apartment buildings. There's all kinds of fraud that used to get involved. And seller carrybacks was one of the tools that people use for fraud. How'd that work? It worked like this. Somebody would come along and say, hey, I'm going to go to the bank and get a 80% loan. Seller, will you carry back 20%? So then the buyer's going to come in with zero, nothing, zero down. So they can go put together this zero down deal and say, seller, will you carry this back? And the seller's like, well, I don't know. And they go, listen, I'm going to get you your money. I'm going to get you all of your money through the 80% lender. And they go, oh, so really what you're going to end up doing is that 80% is going to represent 100% of what I'm going to be satisfied with. And they go, yeah. So in a worst case, I'm still going to get as much money as I'm really looking for. And the investor buyer could say, you're going to get what you're looking for. I'm going to give you this other note, but wink, wink. And they would take that second note and they throw it in the garbage. That's fraud. Okay? It's illegal. It's illegal because it's not disclosed and it's actually being treated like that. So this was a big deal, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 15 years ago. It might be still being done today. I don't know. So you guys, it's interesting stuff. It's important to know when you're a deal maker, whether you're on the buyer side, the seller side, or the broker side, to understand what they are and how to use them. We do seller carrybacks. They're a very valid means of putting together a transaction to close that gap. But you got to have the right people on your team to put these together to understand what the risk is. So I hope that helps. You can look this up. You can dive deep into it. It's pretty interesting stuff, especially because the cool thing about investment real estate especially is how we can put these deals together. That's what I really like. So hey, glad you're with me. Appreciate it big time, and I hope to see you soon. Guys, I love real estate. I think you do too. I think you're gonna really like our channel, Results in Real Estate. We got a ton of content. I hope you're gonna check it out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Results in Real Estate.